Okay, so shh. To start off, I was hoping you could tell us, a little bit about what you two do and what kind of inspired that, right? Like what
Yeah, sure.
inspired you to get into this?
Well, where we started and what we do now are not entirely different, but nowadays, so I'm a private consultant or independent consultant working in sustainable mobility. So focusing on all the active ways that we move around, so walking and cycling, but also public transport and where that all fits in together. And I bring from my side, I look a lot at the equity side of things. So, how do we ensure that public transportation, walking and cycling can be inclusive for the ways that everyone moves, regardless of gender, age, ability, economic access? And my husband works, Chris, he works for the Dutch Cycling Embassy, and their work is focused, or a public private partnership focused on exporting all of the knowledge around Dutch cycling history and what's happening nowadays here through various Dutch organizations, including my own, internationally to help cities around the world become more cycling friendly and better places for everyone. Where we started was very much grassroots. So we were living in Vancouver, Canada. We now live in the Netherlands. And at the time, we had kids that were 1 and 3 years old and wanted to try getting around our city on bikes as much as possible. We were living in a very bikeable community. And what we found is that alongside the excellent work that was happening in activism by the local advocates who were running lots of events, running bike to school days, bike to work days, there was a gap in communications. And so that's where we stepped in. Myself with experience in fashion, but from the marketing side of things, my husband with a passion for photography and writing. We combined those skills to essentially share why cycling made us a happier family, made sure that we could connect to a lot of different places, and really helped everyone we knew, discover a new way of living in their city. So it was really, starting from zero, how do we share our story? And then that grew to sharing other people's stories, and eventually grew to writing 3 books now and sharing as much as we can on our social media channels to really help promote all the wonderful things happening around the world to make cycling and walking and everything that makes public space great, with as many people we can so most more people can benefit.
Awesome. Yeah, that's incredible. So it sounds like you guys you really do a lot.
We do.
Um,
And yeah, I have an independent consultancy now where I'm supposed to be, I work from 9 to 5 and then the rest of the time I'm supposed to be free, but it's really hard to not get that all bleeding into one because when you love what you do, it becomes, yeah, what you do all the time, not just for work.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we followed you guys for a little bit. I actually thought you were from the Netherlands. I just realized you're American as well. That's cool. That is,
Yeah, yeah, no, I grew up in Canada.
oh, Canada. Okay.
So yeah, that's okay. That's my polite way of correcting you.
All right.
And Chris moved to Canada when he was 10. So we were there until we were 39, and then we moved over here. So we've been here for 6 years now.
Okay. So you've been here
Yeah.
about 6 years. That's incredible. So I know like the Netherlands is really, famous for these pedestrian friendly cities. I wanted to ask if do you think there were any like policies or, government policies that were put in place that made that possible?
Absolutely. I would say that they're probably not necessarily walking focused, but walking has been a beautiful byproduct of the
Yeah.
policies. So here in the Netherlands in the early 70s, there was a road safety crisis because there were so many cars on the
You
street.
guys can come closer if you want to hear. Sorry,
And
the
it's okay.
sound
At the
isn't that
same
great.
no, fair enough. At the same time, there was also the OPEC oil crisis. So there was an embargo, and oil was basically limited for a lot of Western countries. And so at this time, it was sort of a catalyst in the Netherlands to re-examine how road space was being used, and that set out for about 20 years of experimentation, trying out the first separated cycle lanes, looking at car-free street policies, and then eventually creating what's known as sustainable safety here, which has five principles that essentially ensure that streets are safe, they're coherent, they're connected, they're attractive to use. And this sort of from that is how the Dutch cycling network that you know today, when you see it in photos, came to be is the red asphalt, where it connects to things. It's very ingrained with each other. So it's we kind of explain it as living in Vancouver, we were there at a time when they were building one bike lane at a time on critical routes. And here they looked at it more of building a network. So not one bike route to get from A to B, but several bike routes that get you from A to B, but also to C to D and then back again very comfortably. And in doing that, it helped to traffic calm a lot of the streets in the country. And then essentially byproduct is that a lot of streets are very comfortable to walk on at some times of the day. In most neighborhoods, you can walk in a street and feel quite safe. And we also have now a lot of car-free city centers where you can go to the markets, you can go do your groceries, you can meet up with friends in a completely pedestrianized space. So really, yeah, it's been a growth over time, but by the mid 90s, that's when things really kickstarted. And that's when, yeah, the Dutch cycling infrastructure and the Dutch streets that you see in photos and in movies that's when it really started to thrive.
Awesome. Has there has there been a lot of pushback to the efforts that you've made? And how
Oh,
have you kind of
absolutely. Yeah.
responded to pushback?
Yeah, no, great question. So yeah, back in Canada, the arguments were quite similar actually to what we heard happened here in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But of course, a lot of businesses are very fearful of streets changing in front of their store. They assume those two parking spaces are vital to their business. So every time we talked about putting in a bike lane or having an open streets day so people could come and spend time, there was a lot of worry. um, Similarly, a lot of the people living in, or a lot of the people advocating for people with disabilities in cities, particularly mobility disabilities, will assume that the car spaces on the streets are needed for those people. And what we do is really focus on the communication side of things. So trying to share the messages that, when you make streets more walkable, cyclable, and public transport friendly, businesses thrived. In New York City, for example, it was 200% increase when they started building out their bike lanes and bus lanes there, in terms of return on investment or income into businesses. And then similarly sharing the human stories. And we do that through writing, through photography, showing people what is possible, making videos. We've got a few videos that we've done over the years that are on YouTube showing all the different type of people that benefit. And yeah, our focus is always on telling that human story to try to connect. And we have a lot of really great friends who are advocates and activists that push harder and fight harder in terms of being that not angry face, but that really forceful face. But we approach it much from the communication side to support what they're doing and show a different message that might be there. So trying to approach it from positivity. Sometimes it's difficult because we know that we're on the right path, but some people need a little extra nudge. But we find using words people understand, showing the pictures of what is possible really helps to inspire people. And so that's our area in the world of activism that we like to sit in.
And yeah, you have to kind of stay positive. I know it's tough,
Yeah.
especially in some more, car-centric places. So
Yeah.
if somebody wanted to take the first step to be an activist, would you, let's see, how should I say it? What kind of advice would you give to taking a first step to, you know, accomplishing some kind of goal like this, in
Mhm.
transforming a city into something better, right?
Yeah. I think that the best first step you can take is see who else is already doing what you want to do. The strength of everything that you see happening around the world is a network of people all working towards the same thing. So for us, it was finding friends and peers working in the cycle chic area, so showing everyday cycling is normal, as well as connecting with the local advocacy and activists. And then together you become this wonderful force for good. Um, I also, there's a colleague of mine, she's in Germany now, but she's originally from Manila, and she essentially started a group on Facebook. So what happened was she was on her way to her first job, working in marketing and on a bus, and talked to a mom who was traveling 2 hours each way to get to and from work, and not seeing her son. And she said, that's not right. And so she started a Facebook group. She invited friends, and then that grew to becoming a whole movement during COVID of building out bike lanes, just from this one idea to start a group of people, a chat, and see what happens. So yeah, I would say find the people that are doing what you're doing, and work together, but also don't be afraid to take the first step and just, post something, and you might be surprised who else is also interested in doing what you're doing, and then build it from there.
All right. Yeah. Excellent. So, I think that's about it. I don't know. I guess I wanted to ask, for our own projects, for our students who are
Mhm.
trying to reach out to people, trying to reach out to other activists. Do you ever encounter situations where you have to, interact or collaborate with experts? And how do you usually go about, reaching out to people who you think can help you with your cause?
Yeah, great question. Early on, it was all very much through, at the time, through social media, through Facebook, through Twitter, but then also attending events. So there's likely events happening in your city for the things that you want to work on. And if you find them, maybe attend one or two. You never know who you'll meet. Nowadays, just because it's a different world for us working now in the field as opposed to just being activists and advocates, LinkedIn is our best friend, but we're also 40, so
Right.
it's a bit of a different world. I would say for younger generations, I'm sure TikTok, there's a huge community that you're not aware of yet that maybe you could reach out to. But yeah, social media to reach broader, but then find those local events where things might be happening. And even if it's just attending one bike to work week, you never know who you'll meet.
Okay, excellent. So she says, use a lot of communities. Check out LinkedIn. LinkedIn is good if you're trying to find like an expert, a professional in something. Um, I think that is it. So thank you so much. This really means a lot that we could talk to an expert, an author, someone who's done so much.
My
Thank you for
pleasure.
being here.
Yeah.
I know it's very early in the morning. It's about like 7:30.
Yeah, it's almost 8. I have my coffee. I'm good.
Okay. All
Good
right.
luck with everything to everyone. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'd be interested to hear how it all works out.
All right. I'm gonna turn the camera around. Hang on. There we go. All right. So they say,
Hi. Good luck with everything.
oh, where am I? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. This means a lot.
Wonderful. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.